Earth is home to many creatures. Some may even consider a few of them monsters. But what of those more elusive and hidden creatures? The ones we just can't seem to find. Welcome to Monday Morning Monsters. Cryptozoologist and paranormal researcher Barnaby Jones talks about the unknown, mythical, undiscovered, and unidentified creatures from around the world, and the people who have seen them, look for them, and research them. Hear from witnesses about their encounters, as well as renowned names in the field about their work and research. Barnaby is the founder and lead investigator for Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, based in Wisconsin. CAPS travels across Wisconsin and beyond looking for connections between different phenomena and how they can all be connected. Now, your host of Monday Morning Monsters, Barnaby Jones.
Good morning, monsters. Hello to this week's episode of Monday Morning Monsters. I am your host, Barnaby Jones. All right, guys, we have some very interesting stuff here. So I want to remind everyone, if you haven't gone over to Paraflix and checked out our new series, On the Trail of Undiscovered Beasts, it is the first season is streaming now. And it is all about Bigfoot in Wisconsin, all sighting reports and witness encounters. Go check that out. If you go to our website and use promo code CAPS10, you can get 10% off your first 3 months of Paraflix. And if you want to show your support for Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, Monday Morning Monsters, Whispers from the Dark, or any of our other shows, you can show that, you can wear it, you can display it by picking up your merchandise at our shop, wisconsincaps.com, and click on Shop Our Store. You can get t-shirts and hoodies and magnets and all kinds of stuff right there at that link. While you're online, make sure you go check out all of our social media platforms. We are Wisconsin Caps, CAPS, on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and WI Caps on Instagram. There you can find upcoming shows for Whispers from the Dark, Monday Morning Monsters, and all of our documentaries on YouTube. If you want to see us in person, coming up, we are going to be at the Frogman Festival's the first one. It is coming up fast in March. It is the inaugural Frogman Festival in Mason, Ohio. Then we head down to South Carolina at the end of March. A great lineup of paranormal people and events down there that weekend, March 24th through the 26th, at the Hagood Mill Historical Site. And then we go to the Bigfoot Conference, or Ohio Bigfoot Conference in Salt Fork, Ohio in May, and back to Rhinelander, Wisconsin for the Hodag Heritage Festival in the middle of May. Small Town Monsters Festival, June 3rd in Canton, Ohio. And the Menominee Marinette Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention, June 9th and 10th, sponsored by Paraflix, CAPS, and American Ghost Walks. You can find all that information and more at wisconsincaps.com and click on the banner that you see right there on our homepage. It's going to be a great event. And then we go up to the MI Paracon in August and back down to South Carolina in the fall, and the Great Lakes Paranormal Conference, Glen Beulah, Wisconsin in September. And that is it for now. So we are all set then here. We have a great show, and I want to dive into this. My guest today is a author and researcher of many, many different cryptids and creatures, primarily the Lake Champlain monster, Champ. And let's bring her on. Katy Elizabeth, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. You have quite the resume of things that you have done and searched for and researched. And you got 2 books out. You are a award-winning film creator for your trailer. That was last year. It looks like that's pretty cool, huh? So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and we'll get into this.
All right, let me start. I had to come inside because my dogs were barking. I was outside with the light a little bit better, so I'll probably pop back out there if they stop barking. but um, so anyways, my name's Katy Elizabeth. I'm an author. I've written a few books on Champ. The most recent one is Water Horse of Lake Champlain, The Search, which is my best book in my opinion. Covers a lot of my findings over the last decade of field research, and it basically tells how I started my research when I was 7 years old, armchair research first. And yeah, I just started to do some filmmaking and came out with a trailer for my documentary that will be coming up probably this summer. I kind of got pushed back a little bit because of other obligations, but I have a documentary coming up and it's called Lady of the Lake, The Search for Champ. And actually just won 4 gold awards at the 14th Film Festival in the UK for that. So that was really exciting. And for really a first time filmmaker, I did a couple little documentary clips on YouTube back in 2014, but nothing to this extent. So that was really a thrill to get recognized for that. So that was pretty cool. I'm trying to think what else I can include in my also the USA administrator for the Center for Marine Zoology in the UK. Jonathan Downs is the founder of that group, that organization. Really great guys, really scientific minded. Trying to think what else. Many hats, I guess. I always have some kind of iron in the fire.
Oh, absolutely. You were on a bunch of TV shows as well, including the Small Town Monsters documentary.
Yes. Yeah, I just got done. It was a couple of years back when COVID hit, and unfortunately, it took forever for it to come out. But I worked with the show Mysteries Decoded on the CW network, and it took like forever for them to put it on TV because everything was messed up because of COVID and stuff. And we did do an eDNA analysis, which I can discuss with you later, for that program. So that was quite interesting as well.
Very cool. Very cool. You had, I think let's start out here with, let's start with basics. Can you tell us what Champ or who Champ is and a little bit about the history of it?
Okay, let's see. Well, the most famous thing that people that have heard about Champ refer to is the famous photo of Champ that was taken in 1977 by Sandra Mancy, which shows the classic head and neck. That's actually the photo that got me started into this research. When I was 7 years old, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack back when the show was amazing with his voice. I mean, there'll never be another host like Robert Stack. So that's what got me into it. And I started looking up in my local library every book I could find on lake creatures, because the most common one obviously is Nessie of Loch Ness. So there was quite a few books on that. I did find one book on Champ, which was by Joseph Zarzinski, a former Champ researcher, called Champ Beyond the Legend. So I read that, and that's basically how I got started into the research. But it wasn't until 2012 when I actually got up here, and it was weird because it was really strange because I had my first sighting the second day I was here, and that was just absolutely amazing to have that experience. And I thought to myself, no one's gonna ever freaking believe me because I don't have a photo, I don't have a video. But then 2 years later, I did get a video in 2014, so that was really exciting. It was good validation, for just my own mind to say, hey, I've got these pieces now that I can show people that I'm not crazy, that I'm not an addict. And what these people have been seeing for hundreds and hundreds of years, including the Abenaki and the Iroquois, that had seen these animals and called them the horned serpents, which I'll explain later why, due to their morphology. So, yeah, that's basically how I got started with the Champ thing. As far as what Champ is, a lot of people have, asked me that. It's a very I got my own theories. Everybody has their own theories to what, Nessie and Champ are. And the most common, theory is the plesiosaur. But the problem with that theory is plesiosaurs were unable to hold their head and neck up high out of the water. It was virtually impossible with the vertebrae in their neck. They look very much like a plesiosaur, but I think what we're dealing with is an ectothermic species, which is reptile or amphibian, or maybe a strange hybrid of both, because they have been seen sunbathing on the beach. Turtles do that. Also, amphibians need that external temperature to sustain their inner core temperature. I believe whatever they are, they're not in our known fossil record. They're very similar to a plesiosaur, but they don't have the really long flippers. They have web-type feet like an alligator. They've got some traits that are quite different than the plesiosaur.
That's very interesting. Yeah, now that you mention it, it's like they kind of do the serpentine motion kind of more through the water, the plesiosaurs and stuff, than actually like a giraffe would be with the longer neck up.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's weird because like the locomotion of the champ animals is vertical undulation for the most part. There is some side to side motion, which is what you do see in snakes that are swimming in the water. And these animals are very serpentine, but they can change their shape as they're moving. It's really strange. They have like a neck that's almost like a piston. So have you ever seen like a video? There was a video that was actually pretty cool. Not video, but show. It was with Jeremy Wade, and he was dealing with this soft-shelled turtle, and the soft-shelled turtle snapped at him, and like the neck looked like really, really short until it lunged at him, and it was like he was like, oh my god, he couldn't believe how far that this soft-shelled turtle could extend its neck out. And I think that's the same thing that these animals use to lunge at their prey, because they think that's like their fishing technique, ambush predator. So if they're sitting at the bottom of the lake and there's fish going by, they can just be really stealth and then all of a sudden snap. They have that ability to stretch their head and neck out. And there's some video evidence with the Bodette film that was filmed in 2005, my sonar images and sonar video that I captured this past year that totally fit into that morphology, that these animals have that ability to stretch their head and neck out extremely far to snatch their prey.
Very cool. So we have a copy of the sonar video that you captured last year, and that kind of made the rounds. I mean, you've been very busy in the end of last year and even this year with all the programs and stuff talking and the news reports and that. So that's super cool. I watched it here, and I watched it when it first came out. We were going to have you on even before you had that video, and then unfortunately stuff happened and we had to reschedule. But it's really cool. So I think we want to go ahead and do that right now.
Sure, that would be great.
Awesome. So this is the video that we got here. It's a little bit of a pre thing to it, and then it shows a couple clips of it in slow motion repeated. So if you want to talk over it and kind of explain stuff as we go, feel free.
Okay, sounds good. I'll try to go back outside and see if we get some better lighting too.
Very cool. So
I was going to
we
explain
got
as we were going, but everything's written on there, so I didn't want to
yeah.
have my mouth off.
So that's really cool. We have some wind out there though on your video now.
Well, it's weird because the wind's not blowing, but it keeps kind of breaking up on my end anyway, even when I'm inside. So I'm not quite sure why it's kind of laggy.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting that here too, but we'll carry on here. It might be the video because I have that stream, so it's like connecting there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll pull that off in just a minute, but I want to go back and look at this again here. So
Yeah. I
okay,
think
that kind of yeah. So you can kind of see right here. I paused it where the object, the animal in question is. So I know that you'd said, or I'd read that it was about 20 feet long, right?
Yes.
Okay. Based on this, can you tell how like thick it is?
It's, I would say, I mean, an estimate. I mean, see, you can use the graph on the side of the sonar to kind of estimate, but it's not always correct, especially with movement.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably my estimation by looking at fish of certain size and whatnot on the sonar, with my experience with that, I would say about 4.5 feet thick.
Okay.
So that's pretty girthy. That's pretty thick.
Definitely.
I mean, they're very slender anyway, but like I said, they seem to. It's really weird because they seem to change, kind of like morph in their shape as they swim as well. Because if you look at the sonar images from 2019, I have two sets of the sonar images. First one, they're on the bottom. Then second one, they're swimming, and you can kind of see how elongate they are. But up in the front, like it's just like up near this part of the neck, it's thicker and it's changed quite a bit from when they were on the bottom. So it's kind of weird, but that's locomotion. I mean, if an animal's moving, they're not going to be the same exact shape anyway. You know, they're going to morph. Their skin's wrinkling and kind of moving and convulsion type of thing. And it's weird because in the 2014 video that I got of a champ animal going across Button Bay, when you slow that video down, you can actually see like this rippling of the skin, and it's just so weird. And there's been so many reports of that. It's like this. It's almost like watching an eel move in the water. Like they have this like shaky type of convulsing muscle type of thing going on. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, when we're looking at like these things like like the plesiosaur, which we kind of a little about, but those things are really big, and you're looking at this thing saying it's only about like 4 feet thick. You know, does that kind of narrow down anything, or do you think this is like a small one, or?
I mean, like the average size of the champ animals reported is 15 to 35 feet. I mean, there's stories that differ. They go back to like 1800s. It's like this 100-foot long creature and stuff. I mean, maybe they could get to be that size because there is that one in the 2019 sonar that I got. I named both of the individuals in that area because this is one section of the lake where I've gotten all the sonar stuff. And I named one Puff and one Elsie because I think they are basically a breeding pair. And I did look up a thing during my like sit on the couch research, which I don't do a ton of. I'm always out in the field getting sunburn and getting bit by bugs and all that stuff because that's my favorite thing to do. I love just getting out there and trying to solve this mystery instead of just, there's some people that can't get out there and do that. And they're like, I love watching your research because you're actually out there, boots on the ground or on the boat doing this stuff. But I did find an interesting article in a scientific paper where it did say that some ancient reptiles and amphibians did move in breeding pairs. So they would travel in pairs, which makes a lot of sense too if you think about feeding. With them feeding, mammals do this. They either go in pairs or they go in groups of pods to catch their prey. So they're all in this certain type of cooperative feeding is what it's called. That's in my newest book. I have a big thing on that, where they're grouping up on schools of fish and pushing the fish towards each other and doing this as a community effort, basically. So that having the two of them, one behind the other, if someone saw that, they're going to say, hey, I just saw this 100-foot long creature, thinking it's just. So, I mean, I think that's the case with Champ. Not to say that there ever wasn't or is not something that huge in Lake Champlain. I just think that the largest size, in my opinion, is about 35 feet long. I might be wrong, but the average size 15 to 35. I mean, I would say that's probably, according to my sonar, plus what people have reported to me as well, that's the most common size. But, you know, with the plesiosaur idea, there's my opinion that in the ocean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure that there is plesiosaur still left out there. I mean, we don't know. The ocean is so vast. Lake Champlain's huge. And a lot of people don't understand when you say lake. They think, like, down here in Florida, this is like my winter place where I stay now. Because, you know, I've done a lot of winter research up on the lake, and I've never really gotten anything. And a lot of the reports, I mean, in my book, I talk about Champ season, which is from the best times June to September. And then after September, it's like the sightings just plummet. And I think that's because they are an ectothermic species. So when you see the turtles and the frogs out, when the water temperature is at its peak, you know, like 70 degrees, 65 degrees, when the water reaches 50 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when these animals start coming out of their torpor-like state. So in the wintertime, they're probably doing the same thing that the turtles and the frogs do. They're just kind of hunker down and their metabolism slows way down. And that also gives the ecology of the lake to replenish. All the fish are, you know, breeding and replenishing as well. And I think they're opportunistic feeders. I don't think they just feed on just fish. There's a lot of reports of these animals in the marsh systems, and I've thought to myself, why is this? But if you go into the marsh and you do research in a kayak or an airboat, which I do plan on getting one of these days, there's a lot of fish, a lot of snakes, and a lot of vegetation. And there's been reports of these animals snatching seagulls off of the surface of the water as well.
That's cool. So you said that you had worked with the eDNA for the TV show there. What did you guys find out with that? Were you able to find anything anomalous or anything with that?
It was not disappointing. There was one part of the study that I did really like and I was really happy about. There's a population of muskies in Lake Champlain, but they're supposed to be endangered. There was an abundance of muskellunge DNA, which means that they're coming back into the ecosystem of Lake Champlain, which is really good. So that was surprising, and it was really positive. As far as anything like reptile DNA, amphibian DNA, that sort of thing, there was nothing, which proves to me if you've got known animals in the lake that DNA is not picking up on, there's a problem. They only took so many samples, and they were also kind of limited on funds, and that's what happens. It's such an expensive study. I mean, just doing what I do with getting out there in the boat and all the equipment, it's so freaking expensive. And it's like, you know, they're like, oh, we're gonna get this DNA test and we're gonna either disprove it or prove it, but they only have a certain amount of a DNA pool in the lab background. So if you have something that you cannot compare it to, which I believe these animals are either reptile, amphibian, or a weird evolutionary adaptation, maybe something in between. I know that sounds far-fetched, but whales at one time with evolution, they actually had feet, and they actually went into the ocean after that. So it's really strange. So, I mean, nature has a way. So if you've got this pool of DNA where these animals are not in our known fossil record, The only thing we're really going to get, if they are reptile or amphibian or some weird hybrid of both, we're going to get unknown. They did not get unknown. They didn't pick up any beaver or otter or waterfowl, nothing. So that shows that I think it was a fluke, because when I did the show, it was during COVID, and they were supposed to send the water samples right to the lab, and they waited like a month, and I'm like, oh no, so it was cool to get the other, the DNA that showed that the muskies are getting more abundant in Lake Champlain. That's really great about the ecosystem of the lake. But what I'm trying to do now is I'm working with a producer, and he's trying to pitch a series with my research, and basically about not just Champ, but lake monsters around the world, kind of like a Jeremy Wade thing, but with a girl. But I'm going to be basing things on the echolocation that I found in Lake Champlain, the sonar, using all that stuff. So it would be quite different than what Jeremy Wade does, rather than catching huge, awesome fish, which I love to do myself. I'm an angler too. But what we're planning on doing is, if this show does happen, is to do further DNA testing and really do a real thorough DNA analysis. I mean, I think the best we're gonna get is unknown, but hey, it's a start. Unless we find one dead on the shore somewhere, it's a start.
Yep. All right, guys, we have to take a real quick break here for station identification. We'll be back. We're talking with Katy. I don't know why I always try to call you Kathy. I don't know. I know. We are back. We'll be right back with Katy Elizabeth. She is the Lake Champlain researcher, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Want to keep up with the latest at the station? How about catch up on your favorite shows on the go? Download the free WLTK-DB mobile app on the App Store and Google Play. Watch, listen, and shop right from the palm of your hand. The WLTK-DB mobile app. The truth is here and now. Get yours today.
All right, we are back here on Monday Morning Monsters. We are talking with Katy Elizabeth, and she is the Lake Champlain champ researcher, author of 2 books, as seen on many documentaries, and winner of 4 gold awards from the International 40 Film Festival. Too long of words to remember. All right. So, guys, if you guys have any questions about Lake Champlain, lake monsters, whales, and dolphins, you've also done a lot of work with them as well, right?
Well, I couldn't hear you. It broke up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I pulled down the video. I was hoping that was the problem, and it's still choppy signal there. So, I said you've also worked with whales and dolphins.
Yes. I've done. I do plan on getting my degree in marine biology, but for now I've been doing a lot of my own independent study on bioacoustics with whales and dolphins. So in my book, Water Horse of Lake Champlain, The Search, I include some of the research that I've done and some comparisons of beluga whale compared to some of my champ recordings that I gotten in Lake Champlain. Even though I don't believe that the champ animals are mammals, cetaceans by any sort. It's really strange because there are a lot of similarities with the communication and aspects of Champ and the beluga whale, which actually lived in the Champlain Sea 10 to 12,000 years ago. But I think what's probably going on with that whole thing, I don't think that they're the same species. Or if you had beluga whale in Lake Champlain, you'd be seeing them all the time. They'd be more social. I mean, they're whites. You could see them so easily. And the Champ animals are blackish brown in color and sometimes reported with like a green kind of haze, which is something, there's something called duckweed that does get on turtles and alligators. And I think, like, I had one report where the woman told me the animal looked all moldy to me. That's all I could think of. And I said, so I went behind. It was actually a Monster Quest. I'm sure you've probably seen the Champ Monster Quest episode with the lady that saw the two underneath the light pole at her boathouse. And I investigated behind there, and there's a huge marsh system, and it's all covered in that duckweed. So I think this animal was covered in this stuff, and that makes a lot of sense when you see turtles that are out in swamp for a long time. They get this like green covering of duckweed.
That's interesting. So you touched on there that the lady had seen two of them. We were talking earlier about like the size and length of these things compared to like a pod or a group of these animals. So in all the reports of these, how many, like, obviously if people see one, what's the higher number that they see at a time do you get?
I've heard usually 2 to 3.
Okay.
There was the video that Pete Bodette got in 2005 of a couple of them. Actually, I think it was 3 that came up next to his boat. And what was really interesting was you could see like this mouth open under the surface of the water. And if you pause that video and you compare it to my sonar images of the head and neck, it's like the same freaking, it's creepy. It's like, wow. And then also the Mansi photo, if you zoom into that, you can see this little oval type object on the top of the head where the heads turn. And that is, the Native Americans describe these animals as the horned serpents. And those are what the horns look like. They have this like little rounded, they're like rounded horns, not like goat horns that are really pointy, which some of the lake monster and sea serpent images like always have these like pointed horns. But when I got the sonar image in 2019 of the animal laying, one of them laying on the bottom, you could see these horn-like things and around it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the same thing on the Mansi photo. And you can see it in the Bodette video as well. So it was really amazing. And then also in the last sonar that I got this past year, in that still shot, I did circle one of that appendage that moves back when it's going through the water. But if you look up at like the head, it looks like a horse's head, and you can see the same thing. It's just like you can't make this stuff up, because around the world there's been reports of horned serpents, Loch Ness, Ogopogo as well. The Celts, the Native Americans, they didn't even know each other. So it's like, the Naga and stuff too, and in Asia. I mean, none of these people knew each other. So it's like they couldn't be just pulling these stories out of wherever. They didn't know each other. So I find that fascinating. And I do talk about that in my book as well, about lake creatures and sea creatures around the globe that have a lot of these similar morphological traits that, I mean, I can see like if, there's a tribe over here and a tribe like 10 miles away and they talk about the same exact thing. Well, yeah, they conversate, they trade things. But when you're looking across the globe into Ireland and Scotland and the Native Americans, it's like these people, they were so familiar with their surroundings. It's just like Bigfoot, the Bigfoot stories that are, passed down from generation to generation from the natives. I mean, they're very, very logical people. I've dealt with the natives a long time, had a lot of native friends, and they just have this way about them where they tell the way it is. And that's what I like about them. And it's so fun to hear stories of these animals from them and then compare them to the Celtic lore, so to speak. It's really neat.
Yeah, you made a very good point there. Like if people are just seeing this creature in Lake Champlain, that's one thing. But when you have reports all over the world of very similar creatures and through different mythologies and stuff, and it starts lending credence to the fact that things more than just one person's sighting or one person, saw a log floating in the river or something. I wanted to talk a little bit. Your book is called The Water Horse. The Water Horse of Lake Champlain, and your boat is the Kelpie too, right?
Yes.
So where do we get this? I mean, for people that don't know, like a Kelpie is basically like this mythological water horse creature. So where do we get this like lore and legend of a water horse, and why is that compared to these things?
Well, in Celtic lore, Ireland and Scotland, they've talked about through the centuries of the Kelpie or water horse, as it's also called. They were basically, they put them in as vicious animals that would lure children onto their back. So they would turn into this black stallion of sorts, and a man or a child or whatever would see these things and say, oh, I'm going to jump. They would lure them to jump on their back, and when they did, they would actually drown them, which is like, okay, well, the champ animals and the Loch Ness creatures, they're not known to be vicious. So I'm not quite sure why that got turned into that, but there is some fact on the morphology of the Kelpie and the water horse. The horse-like head. I mean, just the horse-like head is like the biggest thing about the Kelpie and the water horse. It's kind of cool that I named my boat that because it sounds like badass. The reality, like the true animals that are based on this like mythology, they've never been really known to hurt anyone. So I think it was their way, to be honest with you, of keeping children away from the side of the water. Like, don't go out there because the Kelpie's going to get you. I mean, if I was a kid, I wouldn't go near the water either. If someone told me that. So I think that was like a tactic of the Celts and stuff, where and maybe even the Native Americans too, because they used to go across Lake Champlain and throw in offerings of tobacco to appease the creatures, to appease the horned serpents. So they were, I mean, they're, even though 15 to 30 feet long, that's a large animal. And if you're in a canoe, oh, hell no, I wouldn't want that coming up next to me. So I'd be throwing every kind of offering that I could. I think it was just a fear. It's just like us today, people in general, the fear of the unknown. That's what it is. And that's what makes like the stories of these 100-foot long serpents, and they're monsters, and they're gonna kill you, and they're gonna take a chunk out of your butt. I think it's just because people are afraid of the unknown, and I think that was their way of keeping children away from the side of the water, like so they wouldn't drown. Like kids are rebellious, so it's like, hey, the Kelpie's out there, you better stay away. And if you see a horse over there and you jump on its back, it's going to drown you. I think that's the reason for that vicious type of depiction of the water horse and Kelpie. It wasn't based on the fact of these animals, but I think that's probably where it came from.
I think that's where a lot of our mythology and stories come from, is, tales of warning and stuff, misidentification, because a lot of the times people only can identify things based on what they already know. So if you know that there's a horse exists and you don't know what is in the water, you're going to identify it similar to a horse. And that's where you're going to get it. But all in all, like a lot of these fairy tales and mythology and stuff is like, like boogeyman tales. It just all comes down to that.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
So another idea here. You have been recently promoting a lot of the international I know I'm gonna mispronounce this. Dracontology Alliance.
You almost got it right. It's actually
too many syllables there that I can't put in order.
It's actually, and I didn't make this word up, so it's not my fault.
Yep, I know.
It's Dracontology. So like
There you go.
Dragontology, but
Yep.
Dracontology with a C.
Hmm. So yeah, I know I've seen it before. It's just too many syllables to try and get out this early in the morning.
No, I hear
So
you.
yeah, so going along the lines of like dragons, can you kind of like, is this in your opinion, like we talked about it being maybe like a reptile amphibian hybrid and stuff, and you have the Kelpie mythology and the dragon mythology as well. We have to talk about the fact that these things could be mistaken for some of, like, there's many species of water dragon as well, not just the ones, the big ones you see flying around and spurting fire and stuff. So do you think that that has any linkage at all?
I've thought of that. I've thought it's a good question. I like that. I love like good questions because it keeps my brain going for new ideas for my blog and new books and stuff like that. Um, the similarities of the morphology of like the animal's head, like it is very dragon like.
Mhm.
As far as like the fire breathing stuff and the wings and all that, that, I mean, I'm not saying that maybe back in the day that there wasn't something like that because we just don't know. Like,
Mhm.
we're here today, we don't know what was around back then. There could be a link in there somewhere, I'm sure, but I don't really see like too much more other than the shape of the head type of thing.
Mhm.
But the word dragontology actually came from a man named Jacques Boivet, who came from Quebec and Lake Memphremagog, which is a lot of reports of the same type of animals in Lake Memphremagog, which is probably about 2.5 hours from where I live on Lake Champlain. So it's in pretty close proximity. And I actually think that the champ animals and the Memphrey animals are the same species. So this gentleman made up this name, but he actually said that he had gotten the name from a monk that was from France that said dracontology is like the study of lake animals or sea creatures. So I thought that was really interesting. And Jacques Boivet died probably, God, 15 years ago or so. And when he passed away, it was unfortunate because he did have the International Dracontology Society of Lake Memphremagog. I think that was the whole name of it. And I know his son on Facebook, a very nice man, and his dad was just such a great guy, very friendly. He was a scuba diver. He got out there. He never had a sighting of his own, but he was always out there looking and gathering all of these eyewitness reports. And he just seemed like a real gentleman and a really cool guy to work with. And it's unfortunate I never got to meet him because I think it would have been so much fun to group up with him and do some research and get out there on the boat with him. I think it would have been great. So, when I found out about that, it was kind of a sad thing because there was somebody else that he had worked with, and she's still alive from what I know. And they got into kind of like a little tussle. The funny thing about lake monster research or Bigfoot research or any type of unknown stuff, people get into arguments all the time. You see so much drama. It's like we should. it's like they should have like all these like reality shows about like UFO people or Bigfoot people. It's amazing, and it's like everybody's after the same freaking goal, and it's like I don't understand the mentality of it,
Mhm.
So they got into like this big thing, and he was very easygoing, and she was like, well, I'm copywriting the name Memphre. And he's like, well, I came up with the name Memphre. And then she threatened to sue him, I guess. And the poor guy, like, he just didn't want to write about it anymore. And so I said, you know what? In honor of him, I'm going to come up with the International Dracontology Alliance in honor of his work and just everything that he did as a person. So that's where it came from. And there really is no organization in the world that is based on water creatures. And that's what I thought was interesting. And I said, it's probably not going to get a ton of attention because everything's Bigfoot, Bigfoot, Bigfoot everywhere. But
Mhm.
I've gotten some interest. It's doing well. I'm trying to get it more out there where people get more into that sort of thing. Even if you're a Bigfoot person, because it gets stale after a while when you're focusing on the same exact thing every time, or sitting on your couch and going over the Patterson Gimlin video from back in the day. It's like, you can say this, that, and the other, but get out there and make some new discoveries. Let's do something new, because that's what I did. That's how I got my sonar and my video and all that stuff. It was because I had to get out there and do the work. And that's the biggest thing. Some people can't do that. Either their job restricts them or their health restricts them. And I'm 37. I'm young enough to get out there and get off my behind and do this stuff. So while I'm able to, this is why I'm doing it, and for the protection of the species as well, which I can get into later.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into that. If these things are out there, it's important to make sure that their habitat is saved. I mean, we talk about on other episodes and stuff about Bigfoot and that there's areas that are actually protected, whether this creature is real or not, or in the area. But there are places, I think, out in New York that actually have like not reserves, but land set aside for the protection of them. So, yeah, what can you tell us about what have you worked on for protecting them?
Well, I actually, I wrote a new champ law for protection in Port Henry, New York, and this was a few years back. And what had happened was the town of Port Henry is like really, really small. Then there's a town of Mariah. So Mariah is like the main area, and then Port Henry is like a hamlet, they call it. So what had happened was Joseph Zarzinski did write a law of protection for champ in New York State in Port Henry. And what had happened over the years, they decided to dissolve the town of Port Henry, the hamlet, into Mariah. So like pretty much any law that was written back in that time was just going to be totally defunct and gone. So I got thinking about it, because he wrote it differently. He had put in the law the Lake Champlain sea serpent, this monster, like making it sound like it was this like terrible, creepy thing, and and when you're doing anything with legal terms, with paperwork and that sort of thing, you really have to get into specifics. So you just say that there's one huge monster of sorts when you've got a population of these animals. I said, well, that's so important to address that if I wrote a new law. So I did rewrite the law, and it was passed. So I was really excited, because they actually went by and I didn't even have sonar at the time. It was right before I got the sonar and stuff. They went by the eyewitness reports and, some of the echolocation that I had gotten as well. And it was really phenomenal that it got passed. And I was so excited. I'm like, holy crap, I never thought in a million years I'd write a New York State law. So I was just like, you really have to have a pair of noogies, as I'm going to put it, to get things done. Because if you don't know until you try, you really have to put things down to the grindstone and just do the best that you can. And if someone says, no, this is crazy, I don't believe in this, then at least you tried. You have to do it, because that's how, when discoveries are made, that's when things get accomplished, when you really push things. And my mom always used to tell me, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So you just never know. And it worked. It was great. It was really cool. And I'm really happy about how I worded. I'll have to send you a copy of the law for champ. It was really, I worked hard at writing it because I wanted it to be factual, not this mythological type of thing that was originally written.
Yeah, definitely. It's so hard, like you said, to get that across, because you're talking about this, mythical beast of legend and stuff that supposedly exists, whether it does or not. And you have to convince other people that aren't taking it serious. I always talk about like Bigfoot and stuff like a tree. There's the leaves and the branches up top that everyone, knows Bigfoot exists. There's the Patterson Gimlin film and stuff, and that's it. And then you have the trunk of the tree that is, the TV shows and the books and stuff that are out there that people may or may not have read. But there are very few people that know the whole root system of that tree, which is the boots on the ground evidence and the all the testimonies and actual stuff like, finding footprints to be able to identify specific individuals and so on and so on. And the same thing has got to be true for this. There's the people that, heard the legend of, the Lake Champlain monster or Nessie or Ogopogo and all these things, and they don't know all the other stuff that's below the surface there. So that's very cool. Good job with your getting that pass and stuff. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, it's fun. It's really cool that you just stated all this, because I get people like sometimes that'll just say like, oh, well, there's never been video. There's never been this. And I'm like, whoa, have you seen like some of the stuff that I have, or the Bodette film, or the Mancy photo that's been analyzed over and over again, and never could they debunk it, except for one person. There is a skeptic named Ben Radford that said that he thought it was a log. And so I've been fishing out on Lake Champlain for a long time and doing my research as well. And I've seen logs pop up. I've got videos. What I try to do is do a lot of comparisons with what I have to try to debunk stuff. And no one has ever debunked any of the things that I have, which is really cool. And it's like, why me? I'm this little girl of a sorts. I'm only 5'4". But I think it's because I put in so much freaking time and so much effort and doing comparisons and stuff. But he thought the Mancy photo was a log, which, that could be. But in my opinion, if you have a log out there that has a curvature of the photo, I'm sure I can't even get the camera straight here, of how it looks, there's no freaking way that would even stand up for a second for someone to take a photo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they talk about like gas coming up from the lake. I've seen some weird crap, not Champ, but weird stuff that would convince some people that they're seeing Champ, wakes and birds and all kinds of stuff. But I do those comparisons, and the whole log theory, it sounds cool, but logically, there's no way that a log that has that curvature of that shape could ever stand up for that amount of time for her to snap a photo. I mean, especially with the water pattern, you can see when that was taken. It wasn't completely flat glass comp either. So, that thing would be like all over the place. I mean, that's just my opinion. And compared to my sonar and compared to the Bodette video, it all fits in. So that's just my opinion. Everybody's got an opinion, but I mean, that's just going by the field work that I've done.
Yeah, and as you said, while you were talking there about the log and stuff, it got me thinking, if you have something that I don't have anything here, but like you see the pen, if you have like this log sticking up of the pen here, that's going to weigh more than the rest of the log, and it's going to tip it to the bottom.
Yes.
So I mean, you could have a bigger branch sticking off the bottom that's holding that one up or something, but it's definitely, if you want to take a very scientific, skeptical look at this whole thing, right there, you have, the weight of a log tipping it over when it's flowing in the water and stuff. Like you said, to be able to stay upright for that amount of time to take a picture and stuff, that's, right there. There's your scientific breakdown of debunking that, it's.
I mean, unless you had like some scuba diver person down the bottom holding this thing up, where it's like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy to me. But it fits. What's important is it fits into the morphological aspects of what I got on the sonar, what Pete Bodette got on his video. You've got different pieces of that puzzle that all fit together. So, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion and stuff like that. But and then the other thing that they did say was that they did do a really cool study. It was really funny though, because they went out there and Ben went out there in shorts, and it was so cold. And he's like, I hope I don't get hypothermia. I'm like, why don't you guys? Well, TV shows always want you to do everything when it's cold outside. Maybe it adds to like the drama to the show.
Yeah.
So he's out there, and they've got this floppy piece of paper. It wasn't even really cardboard, and it's like all messed up and everything. And like, they were like, well, we estimated that from this distance, from what she said, that the animal was only like 10 feet long. And I'm like, well, or 10 to 15, something like that. And I'm like, well, just because it's not this 100-foot long thing doesn't mean it's something unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just there's some people out there that just they want to poop on every party. They just want to be right every time, and like nobody's right. I mean, I could be totally wrong with what I'm saying, but it's my true hearts of hearts and my passion and what I do, that for me to get up in front of people on television or go out in front of an audience at a conference and present my work and what my findings, my scientific findings, that I wouldn't do that unless I was 100% certain. But that's just me. That's my personality. I'm a straight shooter and I tell the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing there that you point out is, for every 100-foot whale out there, it started out as like a 6-foot calf. You know, you don't just get born into a 8-foot tall Bigfoot. There's all these smaller, juveniles, because like you said, if these things, are a legitimate species that's out there, you have to have a breeding population to keep them going. And if you have a breeding population, you're going to find these things from up to the giant full size, probably males are probably bigger than the females, right? And
Yes.
you're going to have these big male versions of it, and you're going to have the little baby females as well. So you're going to have every size in between. And to touch on your other point about why make this stuff up. I mean, like, a lot of people believe that the people that are on TV shows and stuff are rich and they make a lot of money. And from my personal experience of doing these conventions and speaking arrangements, by the time you drive to an event and get your hotel and set up at these booths, you're lucky if you make like maybe $100. Right?
Yeah.
This is no reason to hoax or make anything up or put yourself out there for the ridicule, when all you're trying to do is to get the information out there and someone to take it serious.
Well, it's true. It's like, with Bigfoot research, like there's expense and stuff on game camera. I have a ton of game cameras, and I've done some Bigfoot stuff. I've done quite a bit with the skunk ape down here in Florida as well. But I'll tell you what, it's damn near not as expensive as Champ. Oh my God, like you have the boat, you've got the sonar, then with a boat, it's like throwing your money out the damn window.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's and I think that's why nobody else really does this stuff, because it's like so expensive, and I totally get it. And it's like, I'll get asked to do a conference or something, and I'll go to it, and then you're spending money on gas, just like you said, and it's like, I'll have my books there, but then mostly it's Bigfoot people, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll buy a book, but then if I had a Bigfoot book, I'm not a Bigfoot expert. Like, it's not my forte. But there's people out there who haven't even been off the couch, and they write about Bigfoot. So I'm like, maybe I should just come out with a Bigfoot book. That would help the fund. But it's
Write about Bigfoot to fund Champ.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everybody thinks that like I'm a millionaire, or like Ken Gearhart, my friend's a millionaire. It's like, oh hell no! If you only knew how much time, effort, money that we actually put into it, but just because this is our passion and what we love to do, so we're true to ourselves, and we want to put the good information out there to people. So it's there's a lot more to it than the celebrity status. There's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, so let's get you some funding for Champ. Where can people find your books? I just went on Amazon, and it says they're out of print. You can't get them there.
Well, I'm not happy with Amazon right now, because my new, oh my God, you have no idea. I got to get on the computer after we're done and like give them a little chat, because Water Horse of Lake Champlain, the search is on there. It's an ebook, but when you type it in, my old come out, and then all of a sudden, like there was a couple of crappy reviews from someone that didn't like me. So they erased those, because I actually had to get a lawyer involved. Unfortunately, this is like what people don't understand about the crypto world. You wouldn't believe the drama that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So my book is on there. But the best thing to do is to go on my Champ search page on Facebook. So type in Champ search, or my name, Katy Elizabeth, and you'll find me on there as well. And then just, send me a message, shoot me a message. I can send you the ebook through email. That's the quickest thing right now until I get everything settled with Amazon, which is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. So, Lake or Champ Search on Facebook. Where else can people get a hold of you if they have any questions or anything else, or sighting reports or anything if they want to get a hold of you?
I do have a website. It's katyelizabeth.org. So KATY Elizabeth.org. And if they go on that, it says on the front page, my email is champsearch1@aol.com. For some reason, I am having issues with that too, where if they fill out the form at the end, it's not going to my email. So, but that's my main website. But the best thing is Champ Search on Facebook. And then I also have the new page on Facebook, the International Dracontology, DRACONTOLOGY. It's a tongue twister. And Alliance, which is on Facebook as well. Or just look me up, Katy Elizabeth, KATY, not Kathy.
Yes. I don't know why. I always think it just pops in there.
Well, everybody thinks there's an H in my name, but it's because like TIE is the way to spell Katie, but my mom decided to spell Y. So
the brain automatically puts the H in there where it thinks it should have been, and it's not. And I always have to like correct myself when I try and type it and stuff too. I'm like, that's not right. No.
I know everybody. It's not just you. Everybody does it. So.
Well, good. I don't feel so bad then. I do apologize. Like I said.
No, don't worry about it. I also do horse shows. I haven't done them in a while. But when I was a kid, like I do the horse shows and they would announce my name and they'd say Kathy every freaking time. So I actually started spelling my name TIE on the entry form so they wouldn't say Kathy. So it's been happening since I was born. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, I get that. Like nobody thinks that this is my real name either, and it is. You try and apply for a loan or go to a bank or anything like that, apply for a job, and they throw your application away because they think it's a joke.
I actually thought that this is like a pen name.
Nope.
There's a oh, wait a minute.
Yes, I know.
It's like 4 a.m. I'm laying in bed because my other half, he's a lot older than me. So he watches me TV and it's like Barnaby Jones. I'm like, wait a minute. That's the show I'm doing tomorrow. Like, this is weird.
Yep, I know. I've been told every TV show, movie, or anything with my name in it, and people don't believe it's my real name, and it is. So
that's pretty awesome, though. You got like a spy name going on. I like it.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, it has been absolutely amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done, bringing Champ to people's attention, and the law that you got passed and stuff. That's amazing that people are out there, fighting the fight for these creatures and stuff that nobody even believes in. And thank you.
I appreciate having me on the show. It's been fun.
Absolutely. We will have to be in touch and see if we can get you to come back and talk about your skunk ape work as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of research down here in Florida until I get back to the lake in June when it's champ season in full swing, and got to get the boat out there. That's always fun. The mechanical aspects of a boat isn't fun, but we'll figure it out.
Boat, bust out another 1,000. One last thing before we go, I didn't get to touch on it, but you said that you had audio stuff as well from Champ. Is there somewhere that you can go listen to that, or is it on like a YouTube or your Facebook or anything?
All right, what was it? Sorry, it's breaking up again. I don't know what's going on. Well,
you said that you had some like Champ audio as well.
Oh, are you talking about the echolocation?
Yeah. Do you have that up where anyone can like listen to it or view it or anything like that?
Yeah. I can actually. I'll send you the link. Sorry, I didn't do that ahead of time. I'll send you the link and you can post it, and everybody can listen to it. There's actually a couple. I have quite a few recordings, but there's a couple that are on YouTube as well, so I can send those to you.
Awesome. Definitely. I will throw them up on the Monday Morning Monsters page then, as well as the Caps page. So thank you so much. All right, guys, that is our show. I can't think. Let me see who we got coming up next week. I think it is Jeff Craig. He is the creator of the Map in Black, and he will be here next week to talk about the Frogman Festival as well. So, Katie, do you have anything coming up as far as like conventions or anything that people can come meet you and talk to you at?
I actually, the only thing I have booked right now for events is Maine Parafest up in Maine. And if people look that up on Facebook, they can look up Maine Parafest, and I'll be there. I think it's my schedule. I'm terrible with dates, so bear with me. It's at the end of October, so if they go online, look up Maine Parafest. And I'm listed on there as a speaker, and I'll be sharing my research. And hopefully by then, maybe I'll get another sonar reading. You never know.
Very cool. Are you going to be at the Lake Champlain Festival this year?
You know, I probably will be.
Okay.
Things have kind of changed in different things. I wasn't there last year. I had my own event, which was Champ Fest, that I ran last year and the year before. But yeah, I've been approached by certain people to be there again. There was a little bit of a hiatus due to like kind of strange things that we kind of talked about earlier. But yeah, I'm gonna be there. I'm pretty sure I should be. So I will put on my page if I'm going to be there. I always have something going on somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, awesome. it's in the plans. So we'll see. I think it'll be really great. It'll be really great to reconnect with the locals again. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what I've been told, that I should be there in August. So we'll see.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we might be there as well. So hopefully we get a chance to hook up and see you do some work together. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, you're more than welcome on the boat. I love to take you guys out and show you the sonar and that sort of thing. And yeah, it would be a lot of fun. And you know, if they don't have Champ Day, I mean, I was kind of told that they might not. We'll see what happens. But if not, you're always welcome on the boat, regardless if they have the event or not.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, we will be in touch.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right. Very cool. So go check out the Champ search on Facebook, and your website was katyelizabeth.com?
.org.
.org. Yep. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Well, Katy, thank you for being our guest today on the show. And until next time, see you out
there. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.